For years, humanity looked to the stars with wonder. But that changed the moment the signal arrived. It was faint at first, a repeating pulse detected by the Deep Space Observatory at Cerro Electrico Station in Patagonia. Scientists dismissed it as a pulsar anomaly until similar pulses were picked up from 3 other observatories worldwide, all pointing to the same location, the Kuiper Belt. Within days, civilian astronomers posted grainy infrared images online, black silhouettes, against the stars moving with unnatural coordination. What began as an academic curiosity quickly escalated to DEFCON 1. Earth wasn't alone. And it wasn't being visited, it was being targeted. The world's governments reacted with unprecedented unity. Old rivalries dissolved almost overnight, as Earth's nations formed the Terran Defense Pact, consolidating military resources, space-based assets, and scientific expertise. Leaders made it clear, Earth would not bow. It would resist. But what the public didn't know was that Earth had already been preparing. In secret, decades earlier, after the discovery of alien ruins on Enceladus, a black-budget initiative called Project Red Bastion had begun, the construction of underground military infrastructure on Mars. The purpose? To build a forward operating base capable of intercepting extraterrestrial threats before they reached Earth. Most dismissed Red Bastion as a contingency plan that would never be used, until now. As panic spread across the globe and evacuation, protocols were triggered for orbital habitats and lunar colonies. Humanity's real response activated silently from Mars. Hidden beneath its surface were defense grids, automated factories, orbital weapon platforms, and the crown jewel, the Ares fleet, a collection of next-gen warships that had never seen battle. The aliens, identified only through intercepted communications and codenamed the Voraxi, made no attempts to communicate. Their formations were tight, efficient, and lethal in intent. Spectral scans showed their ships were biomechanical, pulsing with strange energy signatures and encased in armor denser than depleted uranium. Earth was not ready for a diplomatic first contact, but Mars was ready for war. The Terran High Command knew the alien fleet would reach Earth in less than 3 months. The decision was made: meet them halfway. Commander Edrin Vale, a former naval strategist turned Martian fleet captain, was chosen to lead the preemptive strike. Born on a lunar station and forged in zero-G combat simulations, Edrin embodied the new generation of Terran warriors, cold, analytical, and unshakably loyal to the survival of Earth. He was given command of the Ares fleet, with orders to intercept the Voraxi before they passed Mars. This was more than defense, it was a statement. Humanity would not wait to be conquered. It would bring the war to the stars. As the first human warships lit their fusion drives and launched from the red planet's surface, the people of Earth watched from afar, barely understanding what was happening. News media speculated. Social media flared with rumors. But in orbit around Mars, reality was clear. The battle for Earth would not be fought on Earth. It would begin at Mars. The Voraxi fleet entered the outer solar system like a swarm of shadows. Dozens of immense biomechanical ships moved with surgical precision, bypassing Saturn's orbit with no deviation. They didn't scan or broadcast, they advanced with chilling silence. No attempt at communication, no negotiation. Only one message was clear: they were coming to destroy. From the hidden bunkers beneath Olympus Mons and Valles Marineris, humanity's response emerged in force. The Ares fleet, humanity's first, true interplanetary strike armada, launched in staggered formations, 30 heavily armored warships, equipped with railguns, plasma torpedoes, kinetic lances, and experimental AI-guided defense systems, ascended into orbit. The centerpiece, the TDS Vindicator, a kilometer-long dreadnought forged in Martian steel and powered by a dark matter reactor. It served as Commander Edrin Vale's command ship. Vale stood on the bridge with a gloved hand on the reinforced glass, eyes fixed on the distant stars. To him, this wasn't just strategy. It was humanity's trial by fire. For centuries, humans had fought each other. Now they had one enemy, one war, one chance. The battle plan was named Operation Molten Sky, an ambush designed to turn Mars's orbital terrain into a kill box. The Varaxi would pass near the Martian gravity well to slingshot toward Earth. That slingshot maneuver would slow their outer formation for a few minutes, a narrow window. And in that window, humanity would strike, orbiting mines disguised, as shattered satellites were positioned along the path. Martian orbital cannons, dormant for decades, were synced with the fleet's AI. When the Varaxi approached, human forces would decloak, open fire, and use the element of surprise to cripple the leading ships. Everything hinged on timing. As the Varaxi fleet crossed into Mars' outer kill zone, their vessels finally began reacting. Alien drones fanned out. Their hulls pulsed with a blue bioluminescent sheen, but it was already too late. Idrin gave the order, ignite the sky. From behind Phobos and Deimos, human vessels surged forward. Railguns fired tungsten slugs at near relativistic speeds. Mines detonated in synchrony, sending shockwaves through the vacuum. Particle beams slashed through space, carving through the alien vanguard. The Varaxi did not hesitate. Their ships responded with terrifying coordination, unleashing plasma-like organic projectiles and gravitational wave disruptors. One human frigate, the Argent Rain, was hit broadside and vaporized in a single instant, but the others pressed forward. The battle turned brutal, fast. The Varaxi ships were living machines, regenerating under fire, adapting to frequencies, learning in real time. But humans had evolved under pressure for thousands of years. Their strength wasn't in durability, it was in innovation. Captain Sere Morda, commanding the TDS Tempest, rerouted her AI's targeting algorithms mid-battle to focus on alien joints and exposed energy vents. 2 Varaxi cruisers were shredded in moments. On the surface of Mars, remote drone platforms launched nuclear-tipped interceptors, shaking orbit with silent blossoms of annihilation. For hours, the 2 species clashed in the bloodless void, and, when the debris settled, the Varaxi were reeling. 6 of their capital ships were destroyed. 4 others crippled and drifting. Humanity had drawn first blood, at Mars, and Earth, watching from afar, realized something profound. The invaders could bleed. The victory at Mars was more than a tactical ambush. It was a declaration. Humanity would not die quietly. But Mars was only the beginning. As fragments of shattered Varaxi ships drifted in orbit, Earth braced for retaliation. Humanity had no illusions. The Varaxi weren't defeated. They were wounded and enraged. Across Earth, the Unity Protocol was enacted. This wasn't just a military mobilization. It was the total conversion of civilization into a war machine. Every nation, every orbital facility, and every lunar base was put on high alert. Borders dissolved overnight. Old grudges were erased in the face of extinction. The Global Defense Nexus, once a loosely coordinated UN-backed advisory group, transformed into Earth's wartime command structure. At its core was strategist Lyra Malkoff, a former quantum theorist turned defense tactician. She'd predicted an invasion decades ago, labeled paranoid and dismissed. Now world leaders listened to her every word. Her directive: Earth must become a fortress. Factories in Southeast Asia and the Americas retooled for military production, building orbital railguns, interceptor drones, and AI-linked fighters at record speed. Engineers in Kenya completed the launch of Project Archangel, a prototype atmospheric shield grid designed to fry incoming alien vessels with directed energy. The moon became a garrison. Thousands of soldiers and robotic sentries fortified the Mare Imbrium installation. Luna's strategic value was clear. It was Earth's outer wall. Whoever held it controlled orbital superiority. But it wasn't just weapons. Humanity leaned on what made them dangerous to begin with: adaptability. On board the TDS Vindicator, samples of destroyed Varaxi hulls were analyzed. The materials weren't just metal, they were semi-organic, responsive to stimuli. Biologists, nanotech engineers, and AI experts worked round the clock to reverse engineer alien tech. It was desperate science, half guesswork, half brilliance. But breakthroughs began to emerge. Earth's first hybrid weapon, the pulse scythe, was born. A reverse-engineered particle beam that mimicked the Varaxi's gravitational disruptor, but with human precision targeting. Portable versions were rushed into development. Meanwhile, underground bunkers and space elevators were reinforced. Civilian populations were relocated from megacities to fortified arcs across the continents. Nations that had never shared intel now exchanged targeting data in real time. Even Earth's digital landscape was transformed. A sentient global defense AI, Argus, was activated. Originally mothballed for ethical concerns, Argus was now Earth's all-seeing eye, coordinating drone fleets, satellite arrays, and battlefield intel in real time. But not all was unity. Some feared what Earth was becoming. There were protests, rogue AIs, and sabotage by those who believed surrender might save more lives. There were whispers that certain corporations were making deals behind closed doors, believing that serving the Varaxi might ensure survival. Still, the majority of humanity held fast. They remembered Mars. They remembered the silent aggression of the Varaxi and the sacrifice of those who died in orbit. Strategist Malkov stood before the World Council with one final message. We are not a people of peace. We are a species of preparation. We do not seek war, but when it comes, we do not run. The Varaxi are coming. Let them. Earth is awake. And so, Earth waited, not with fear, but with fury. The next strike would not catch humanity off guard. This time, Earth would be the blade. The silence of space shattered as the Varaxi mothership, an immense leviathan dubbed the Vorka Dreadnought, loomed into the Martian system. It was unlike any vessel humanity had seen before. A living fortress of bone-like armor and glowing veins pulsing with an eerie energy. The war that had once seemed a distant threat was now undeniable and immediate. Mars's orbital defenses, battered but still operational, scrambled to intercept. Command ship TDS Vindicator and its battered fleet raced to meet the colossal invader. But the Dreadnought's arrival changed the battlefield entirely. Its weapons weren't conventional. Instead of missiles or energy beams, the Vorka unleashed space-warping shockwaves and disintegration pulses. Entire orbital stations crumbled under its power in minutes. Mars's defense grids flickered under sustained assault. On board the Vindicator, Commander Ayla Thorne stood beside a weakened Idran Vale, who had sustained injuries from earlier skirmishes. The strain was visible, but neither hesitated. Orders? Ayla asked, her voice steady. Idran's eyes burned with defiance. We cannot hold orbit, prepare for tactical retreat. But retreat wasn't an option Ayla was willing to accept. Activating Red Protocol Omega, a secret contingency devised by Earth's most desperate minds, meant turning Mars itself into a weapon. Hidden deep beneath the polar ice caps, vast energy, arrays were dormant, capable of unleashing devastating plasma bursts with the power of a small star. Ayla authorized the activation despite the risk. The energy surge required to fire the arrays would destabilize Mars's fragile environment, possibly rendering the planet uninhabitable for decades. But the alternative was extinction. With minutes ticking away, human warships scrambled to draw the Dreadnought into range. The plan was clear but near suicidal. Get close enough for the arrays to target the mothership and overload its defenses. The TDS Vindicator led the charge, weaving between plasma blasts and gravitational shockwaves. Several fighters peeled off under heavy fire, buying time for the main fleet. Suddenly, the Dreadnought unleashed a massive pulse, knocking out communications across the fleet. Idran was thrown against a console but managed to stay conscious. Ayla quickly took command, rallying the surviving ships. Stay tight. Focus fire on its energy vents. It's adapting, but the vents are vulnerable. Under her direction, a swarm of stealth fighters executed a daring run through the Dreadnought's defenses. Using cloaking tech and rapid strikes, they targeted exposed conduits along the hull. Meanwhile, on Mars, the polar arrays began their charge, drawing power from frozen reserves and geothermal vents. The ground trembled as the planet itself seemed to awaken in a last-ditch act of defiance. Just as the mothership closed in for a devastating strike, the arrays fired. A blazing column of plasma energy surged through space, striking the Vorka. With overwhelming force, the hull cracked, glowing fissures spreading rapidly. The alien ship staggered, its terrifying assault faltering. But the victory came at a price. The energy discharge triggered massive quakes on Mars, collapsing tunnels and fracturing habitats. Communications went dark with some outposts. Ayla sent the order to retreat. Mars was no longer a base but a battleground scarred by sacrifice. The mothership was crippled, but not destroyed. The Varaxi would regroup. Still, humanity had won this round, and the war was far from over. The destruction of the Varaxi mothership above Mars was a staggering blow to the alien invaders, but it was far from the end. The Varaxi retreated, battered but not broken, retreating toward Earth's orbit with renewed ferocity and resolve. The battle had shifted from the barren surface of Mars to the skies above the blue planet itself. Earth was no longer a distant prize. It was the last bastion. In the months since the Mars conflict, Earth's defenses had transformed dramatically. The global defense nexus had expanded its network, deploying vast arrays of orbital platforms armed with railguns, missile batteries, and energy shields, encircling the planet like a shimmering cage. The moon served as the launch pad for rapid response fleets, and Earth's atmosphere itself was fortified by Project Archangel, a sprawling grid of atmospheric energy weapons designed to fry any incoming enemy craft. But even with these defenses, the Varaxi assault was relentless. Their ships swarmed through the void, a dark cloud blotting out the stars, launching wave after wave of biomechanical drones and kamikaze fighters intent on breaching Earth's final barrier. Commander Idrin Vale, now fully recovered and back, in command, coordinated the defense from the Orbital Command Station Artemis, a colossal ring structure orbiting Earth's equator. With strategist Lyra Malkov feeding him real-time battle data, and Argus, the global defense AI, weaving a complex web of tactics, Idrin's forces prepared to repel the greatest invasion Earth had ever faced. The initial clashes were brutal. Varaxi, drones overwhelmed some orbital platforms, sacrificing themselves in desperate attacks to create openings. However, Earth's railguns and interceptor fleets responded with precision, vaporizing incoming threats in bursts of bright light. During one critical battle near the Pacific Orbital Array, Captain Sirey Morda led a squadron of stealth fighters in a daring counterattack. Using newly developed pulse-scattering tech derived from Varaxi biology, her team slipped through enemy lines to target the alien command frigate. A direct hit disrupted the alien fleet's coordination, buying Earth's defenders precious time. On the ground, civilians watched the sky with bated breath, as distant flashes of light illuminated the atmosphere. Governments enforced blackouts and evacuation orders for coastal cities fearing orbital debris, yet the human spirit remained unbroken. Meanwhile, Argus detected a sinister pattern. The Varaxi were not merely attacking, they were attempting to deploy a massive orbital weapon system, a dark energy cannon capable of obliterating entire continents. With the clock ticking, Idrin and Lyra devised a bold plan. A strike team would infiltrate the enemy formation using captured Varaxi stealth tech. Their mission was to sabotage the cannon before it could fire. Led by Captain Ayla Thorne, the strike team launched aboard the TDS Phantom, slipping past enemy patrols cloaked in borrowed technology. The infiltration was tense and perilous, with the crew navigating bioorganic corridors pulsating with alien life. After disabling several security nodes and evading detection, they reached the heart of the weapon. With seconds to spare, the team planted explosive charges and transmitted the location to Earth's forces for a synchronized attack. The Phantom barely escaped as a devastating explosion rocked the Varaxi fleet, shattering the dark energy cannon. Back at Orbital Command, Idrin's voice resonated through the comms. "This is humanity's fight. We protect our home not because it is easy, but because it is ours. We will not falter." The Varaxi, crippled and demoralized, retreated once more, this time into the cold void beyond Earth's orbit. Earth had survived the invasion's fiercest onslaught, but the war's final chapter was still unwritten. After months of relentless combat, the Varaxi forces had been battered back from Earth's orbit. their numbers shattered and morale waning. But they were not defeated yet. The alien invaders regrouped in the Kuiper Belt, preparing one last desperate assault, a full-scale invasion fleet aiming to breach Earth's defenses and annihilate humanity once and for all. On Earth, the world stood united like never before. The scars of war had forged a new global alliance, one that transcended borders, politics, and old rivalries. The Unified Earth Defense Coalition was a beacon of human resilience and determination, its fleets and armies ready to face the ultimate trial. Commander Idrin Vale and strategist Lyra Malkov stood at the helm of the command center in Artemis Station, their faces weary but resolute. The stakes could not be higher. "We don't just fight for survival," Idrin said quietly. "We fight so our children will inherit a free world." The coalition's strategy was audacious. Rather than wait for the Varaxi to reach Earth's doorstep, humanity would strike first, deep into the Kuiper Belt, in what was called Operation Eclipse. The goal was to destroy the alien staging grounds before they could launch their final assault. The combined Earth fleet, now bolstered with advanced hybrid weapons and AI-assisted warships, set out on the longest and most dangerous mission yet. The journey through the outer solar system tested every crew's endurance and resolve. Communications were sparse, supplies limited, but the spirit of unity burned brighter than ever. When they arrived, the sight was staggering. The Varaxi had built massive bioengineered stations, living fortresses wrapped in swirling energy fields, spawning waves of drones and fighters. It was a hive of death and destruction. The battle that followed was epic. Human ships tore into the alien fleet with newfound ferocity. Pulse scythes and plasma lances ignited the void. Argus orchestrated precise strikes, exploiting weaknesses uncovered from months of studying Varaxi tactics. Captain Ayla Thorne led a boarding party to the largest hive station. Using EMP grenades and nanite swarms, they sabotaged the core, triggering a chain reaction that would collapse the structure. Fighting through alien creatures and automated defenses, the team's sacrifice was immense, but the mission succeeded. Meanwhile, Idrin and Lyra coordinated fleet maneuvers that forced the remaining Varaxi ships into a trap near Neptune's orbit. The human fleet unleashed a devastating barrage that crippled the enemy's command vessels. As the alien flagship began to falter, Idrin delivered a final message. "This galaxy is not yours for the taking. Humanity will rise, not as prey, but as conquerors of our fate." With a blinding cascade of energy, the flagship exploded into cosmic debris. The victory was absolute, but it came at a cost. Entire human squadrons were lost. Mars was scarred and Earth bore the weight of the war's toll. In the aftermath, humanity faced a choice: to remain isolated, wary of future threats, or to venture boldly into the stars, united and unyielding. Kite. Answer was clear. Rebuilding began immediately on Mars, on Earth, and beyond. New colonies flourished. Technologies once thought impossible became everyday tools. Humanity had changed forever. The war had revealed a truth, that in the darkest hour, unity and courage could overcome even the most terrifying foes. As Idrin looked toward the stars from Artemis Station's observation deck, he whispered, "We crushed them at Mars, but this is only the beginning. Humanity's journey had just begun."